Mill claimed adultery and stole my possessions because my newborn son is ugly? I'm 28 and married to Mike, 30, for 3 years. James, our first son, arrived lately. My 55-year-old mother-in-law Linda made a wonderful time a nightmare. Linda disliked me. Linda told his parents she didn't think I was right for her son when Mike introduced me. I'm working class, while Mike's family is rich. Linda was constantly critical. Jokes about my nursing job, saying Mike could do more than a bedpan changer. Mike and I fell in love and married anyhow. Mike and I met at a charity event. He was there with his friends when I volunteered for nursing school. We liked one another immediately since we liked helping others. Mike, unlike the other men I'd met, was friendly and didn't mind my poverty. My hard work to become a nurse impressed him. Swiftly, we went serious. We discussed marrying within a year. I met Linda then. Mike warned me about his mother's harshness, but I was surprised. I was treated like dirt by Linda when I arrived. Fake smiled as she shook my hand briefly. She asked about my family, job, and goals at dinner. I made her frown more with each response. She told Mike he could do better than that lady after supper. A family friend's daughter was in law school. Mike defended me, but I knew there would be trouble, even though Linda disagreed. Some months later, Mike and I became engaged. Linda was upset. We were too young, she said, so she made Mike wait to marry. She tried to plan an expensive, lavish wedding after it failed. Mike declined, so we had a small wedding. Linda was irate throughout. She even offered a speech wishing I could reach their family status. This was embarrassing, but Mike and I tried not to let it ruin our day. Linda remained a problem after we married. She tried to hook Mike up with other women despite our marriage. She said Mike was settling for me and our kids will be alike due of my background. Mike continuously defended me, making Linda hate me more. Linda unexpectedly visited us. She criticized everything, including our food and furniture. She brought a woman she wanted Mike to date, stating they met by happenstance. Mike was so unhappy he didn't talk to his mom for weeks. Mike and I were happy despite Linda's meanness. I was the hospital's top nurse, and Mike was successful with his family's business. We waited to have a baby. Linda was unhappy when we told everyone I was pregnant. She hopes the baby resembles Mike's family. She attended every doctor's appointment, despite our privacy wishes. She questioned everything, including our doctor and my vitamins. Linda deteriorated before her due date. She didn't trust Mike to care for me in my final month, so she wanted me to stay with her. We had a big fight when I refused. I labored for 36 hours before giving birth. Mike stuck with me during the hardest part. We rejoiced when James was born. He had dark hair like Mike. We stayed at hospital with our newborn for 2 days. I was exhausted but excited. Mike called our family to say we'd be home soon. Even though we wanted time alone as a new family, Linda offered to help. To our surprise, Mike drove us home to see all my possessions spread across the front yard. Everyone in the neighborhood saw my clothes, books, and nurse dresses. Linda looked smug from the doorway, shocked. Mike was mad. I was told to wait in the car with James while he dealt with Linda. Linda yelled as he reached the house. "How dare you come back, you cheating whore!" Screamed you weren't good enough for Mike, and now I know. Mike was confused. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. Linda pointed at James inside the car. "That baby is not Mike's. Nobody in our family looks so hideous as an infant. You cheated on my son and are now trapping him with another man's baby." I couldn't believe what I heard. Mike tried to explain, but Linda wouldn't listen. She kept telling me I wasn't good and that she was protecting her son. Our house. She refused, saying she was there to help her son and grandson, forgetting she had just said the baby was not Mike's. He pulled it out and said, "You must leave now, you're not welcome here anymore." Linda assumed Mike would side with her, but he didn't, Mom. After James fell asleep, Mike and I decided that Linda couldn't come to our house or see James until she apologized and behaved. Mike said he wouldn't speak to his mother for a while. The next day, I called my parents and explained, "Mike's father is trying to make peace, but we won't change our minds. Some of Mike's family members think we're too hard on Linda because they think she was just protecting Mike. They beg us to forgive her so the family can stay together. Others understand why we're angry and agree with our decision to keep Linda away until she's nice." I'm dealing with all the emotions that come with having a new baby and the drama. Mike is trying to be strong for me and James, but I can tell he's exhausted and stressed. We're not sleeping well, and not just because of the baby. Mike has considered pursuing a restraining order against Linda, but he's worried about how his family will react because of Linda's actions. Mike tried to talk to his father to persuade Linda to see reason, but I think he's used to letting Linda do whatever she wants to keep the peace. I've always thought family was important, but I'm not sure anymore. Is it worth staying in a relationship with someone who can be so hurtful? What if that person is your mother-in-law? Mike and I have discussed going to counseling. Last week, Linda came to Mike's office and cried, telling everyone that Mike was taking her grandson. Mike's coworkers were shocked, and his employer was upset. Mike had to explain the situation to his supervisor, which was embarrassing and unpleasant. Then Linda started contacting my office, telling my coworkers that I was an unsuitable mother who had imprisoned my grandson. Involved next. At first she agreed with Linda, accepting the lies about me cheating. She called Mike and said some harsh things, accusing him of choosing me over his real family. Mike was upset because he and Emma had always been close. But then something unexpected happened. Emma visited our house one day while Mike was at work. She explained that she wanted to see the kid for herself. Her entire attitude changed. Linda didn't like Emma being on our side anymore, so she started spreading stories that Emma was jealous because she wasn't married and hadn't had children. Emma was devastated. Linda hired a private investigator to follow me around, which made the situation worse. She believed that if I had cheated once, I must continue to cheat. The pie followed me everywhere, including work. Grandparents' rights, which was the final straw. She went to a lawyer and requested legal visitation with James, but the lawyer told her she didn't have a case because James was so young and she had never met him. All of this stress began to take a toll on my health. I was having trouble producing enough milk for James and losing weight quickly. My doctor was concerned about postpartum depression. Mike insisted that I take. 3 months after James' birth, things are finally quieting down. Linda has reduced her calls and texts. Mike's family, for the most part, understands our situation. Emma makes regular trips and has become James' great-aunt. So Reddit AITA, you support Mike, while forcing his mother out and refusing to let her see her grandson? Linda started visiting our neighbors' houses and spreading rumors about us. She said we were bad parents and that they should contact child services. Some neighbors believed her and threw us filthy glances. Others explained what she was doing. It was unpleasant and stressful to have our personal lives spread around the neighborhood. After a terrifying experience, we decided to install security cameras around our home. The tension began to affect Mike's employment. His employer called him in for a meeting because he appeared distracted and his work was slipping. Mike had to explain everything with his mother. His employer was empathetic, but told him that if he didn't focus on work, he could lose his job. That my parents were trying to convert Mike against his own family. She even called my father's job and told them he was an alcoholic who shouldn't be trusted around children. It was a lie, but my father had to answer questions from his supervisor, which was humiliating. Things got worse when Mike's cousin Amy married. Mike was deeply saddened by this. He and Amy had been close growing up, and he was looking forward to attending her wedding. At the wedding, he tried to advocate for us. She told everyone the truth about Linda's actions, including how she accused me of infidelity and tried to force me out of my home. This led to a massive fight at the reception. I called Mike, distraught and saying her wedding had been spoiled due to our family problems. Mike felt bad, even though it wasn't his fault. After the wedding fiasco, Mike's family was divided. Some stopped communicating with us, barring us on social media, and refusing to return our calls. Others apologized and reiterated their belief in us. He missed their regular relationship. Against my better judgment, we decided to have Linda visit. We set strict rules: she could only come when Mike and I were home, and she could not be alone with James. Linda was pleasant to me and adores James. She even brought a handmade supper, knowing Mike loved her cooking. However, it was all an act. Linda tried to flee with James after Mike went to the bathroom on her. Contacted the police, who detained Linda for attempted kidnapping. Mike was devastated to see his mother handcuffed and put in a police car. He burst out crying, feeling like he had failed both his mother and his son. Linda spent the night in jail. The shock of being arrested seemed to jolt Mike's father up to the gravity of the issue. He came to see us the next day, exhausted and depressed. After a long discussion, we agreed to let him visit but made it clear that he could not communicate with Linda. Mike was glad his father had finally realized the truth, but he was heartbroken that his family was falling apart. He started going to therapy to deal with his emotions, which has helped him cope with stress and guilt. I went back to work part-time. Despite the commotion, James is doing well. He's rapidly developing and resembling Mike by the day. It's hard to accept that he won't have a relationship with his grandmother, but we know it's for the best. We're doing everything we can to shower him with love and positivity. Emma visits frequently, and we've grown closer to her. Emma confronted Linda when she tried to turn Emma against us again, telling her she needed professional help and that she couldn't have a relationship with her until she did. Linda didn't like losing control over Emma, so she started telling people Emma was on drugs, which is why she was on our side. She even planted narcotics in Emma's car and notified the authorities. Fortunately, the officers were dubious of the anonymous. The drug accusation caused work problems for Emma, and her supervisor heard the whispers and let her go despite the lack of evidence. Emma was devastated because she had worked hard for her job, but now she was unemployed due to her mother's lies. We invited Emma to stay with us while she looked for a new job, and she accepted. Mike and I discussed it for a long time before agreeing to try it, but only if Linda agrees to seek help for her behavior first. We went to our first therapy appointment last week. Linda cried a lot and said all she wanted was her family back. She mentioned how lonely she has been since Mike's father left her. The therapist was harsh with Linda, telling her to take responsibility for her actions. Help Mike's parents. We're short on cash right now. So there we are. Things are improved, but it's still hard. After saying Mike's family was affluent, several people have asked me why our family is struggling financially. Here goes. Answer: Mike's family is rich. That's about his parents, not him. Update 3 comes 1 year after update 2 and 2 years after the original post. Paused. Linda didn't like hearing that. She yelled at the therapist and left, accusing her of siding with us. Mike felt like we had taken a step back. After the terrible therapy session, some of Mike's relatives and uncles contacted us. They said they'd heard about what happened and regretted trusting Linda's lies. They asked if they could meet James. That's where we are now. Linda continues to cause problems, but we're stronger as a couple and a family. Any suggestions on how to move forward and recover as a family are welcome. We're taking it one day at a time, but it feels like we're still stumbling along. Thank you for listening and your support. Employees. Mike could lose his job. We're worried about this. We're trying to save money in case he does, but it's hard. We've spent a lot of money on lawyers because of Linda's problems. Once Linda learned that Mike might lose his job, she started calling and texting us constantly, saying she wants to help us financially. James has been having horrible dreams at night and is very sad when we leave him with babysitters. He screams and begs us not to leave. We also have some new legal issues Linda discovered that we wanted. Our lawyer says Linda can't do much about it, but we're still concerned. Mike's father is trying to help us, but he and Linda are divorcing, and Linda is saying strange things about M. Since my last post a year ago, lots has happened. I think I found the password for this account. Thanks to everyone who gave advice and support in comments and DMs. Despite a terrible trek, we survived. This is what happened. Mike was laid off. The company laid off several employees, including Mike. It hit us hard. Given how much we had spent on lawyers due to Linda, we had little money. I worked additional hospital shifts to contribute, but it's hard. This was an opportunity for Linda to intervene. She bombarded Mike with calls and messages. She gave money and said she could help if we accepted her back. We ignored her, but she persisted. She tried to break into our house with a check one day. Michael slammed the door on her. He stood firm, and I was proud, but Linda persisted. She told everyone we were straining to care for James. She called CPS, saying we couldn't feed our baby. They came to check on us and saw James was being cared for, which was humiliating and frightening. Mike's father tried to help. We reluctantly accepted his money. We needed it, but knowing he was struggling made us feel bad. His divorce from Linda was becoming tumultuous. Linda wanted half of everything, including his pension. She prolonged judicial processes to make them expensive and difficult. Then things got wilder. Linda impersonated Mike by emailing firms his CV. She even made fake email accounts in his name. Mike got calls for interviews he never applied for. It was a mess. We spent hours explaining the problem to these companies. Some felt Mike was unstable and blacklisted him. His employment search is much harder. Emma, Mike's sister, has always supported us. She's helping us with James, job hunting with Mike, and interfering with the family. But it's hurting her. She's always tired and nervous. We learned she's been taking anti-anxiety medication. We're sorry our problems hurt her so much. Things got worse, but we thought they couldn't. Linda slandered us online. She lies about us on a Facebook group called Justice for Grandma, which has been deleted. He is not an alcoholic. I am not having an affair with Mike's boss, and she alleges we are abusive and turning our child against her. Mike is now unemployed. Some Mike's relatives trust her. His aunt started making negative comments on my Facebook sites, and his cousin yelled at Mike at the grocery store for leaving the family. We blocked so many people. We feel like we're losing all support. The worst is yet to come. James' daycare called us one day. Linda appeared and claimed authorization to pick up James. Thankfully, they knew and refused to let her take him, but it horrified us. James had to leave that daycare and find another, which was difficult considering our finances. We filed suit after that. A restraining order was requested against Linda. Court proceedings were unpleasant. Linda played the pathetic, bereaved granny perfectly. She sobbed, wanting to see her grandson. All evidence of her harassment and attempted kidnapping was provided by our counsel. The judge issued a restraining order. We thought it was over, but Linda became sneakier. As usual, she sent flying monkeys after us. Mike struggled to find job. Linda's fake applications messed things up for him. He finally found part-time work at a hardware store, but it doesn't cover our bills. We're barely making ends meet with legal bills and my extra hospital hours. When James got sick last month, we were scared. A high fever made him puke. We took him to the ER. I feared Linda would find out and go to the hospital. Thank goodness that didn't happen, but the dread was real. Medical bills are another expense we cannot afford. Mike's father is sicker. His connection with Linda and divorce stress have affected him. He had a little heart attack last week. He's fine, but it woke us up. Mike is devastated, as if he caused it. I keep assuring him it's not true, but I know he's struggling. Trying to help Mike's father is hard when we're hurting ourselves. To heal him, Emma has stayed. However, she's less available to help us with James, making things harder. Naturally, Linda exploits Mike's father's health issues to play the victim. She has been posting on Facebook about how she should be able to visit her dying husband, even if he is not, and how bad we are for keeping her away. Some fall for it and send us unpleasant messages. Changed our phone numbers again. Linda kept trying to reach us despite our repeated blocks. Changing our contact information with work, James' daycare, and others is inconvenient, but the peace of mind is worth it. So there we are. Still fighting, growing, and healing. Linda causes problems, but we're becoming better at handling them. We are stronger than ever as a partnership and family. Despite everything, we're strengthening our small family and living happily. Edit. Mike finally has a better job lead, but I didn't want to write a big post about it. It's not in his field, but it's full-time and benefits, which is great for us. His interview is next week. It's hard not to get hopeful, but we try not to. This work could considerably improve our predicament. Update 3 precedes the last update by weeks. I'm overwhelmed by the love and support since my last post. Many have reached out via comments and direct messages, offering advice, sharing stories, and encouraging words. It means everything to us. I read every message, even if I couldn't respond. Your support has guided me through some terrible times. Several of you have provided financial aid or job prospects for Mike. Despite not receiving financial aid, your kindness has touched us. Now for the update. I'd want to address our family's recent events after a few weeks. The good news first: Mike was hired. Despite not being his field, it's a steady employment with good perks. His salary is lower than his former position, but it's enough to keep us afloat. We're relieved to have steady income again. Although enduring stress, Mike is enjoying his career, which is reassuring. Unfortunately, Linda persists. Her attacks are more subtle but still happen. We found that she had been writing anonymous letters to our neighbors saying we were bad parents and should be watched. Some neighbors have asked about it, and most know about it. It's frustrating to feel continually watched. Mike's father's health is improving, but his Linda divorce is pending. MS moved away after finding a new career, yet she still helps James. We've made some tough decisions recently. We moved 3 hours away to a new city. We used to say no, but we never expected the situation to worsen, and Mike had lost his job, so this was a good decision. Mike can transfer to his new career, and I found a hospital position there. We're afraid to leave our support system, but we need a fresh start without Linda. No one in Mike's family knows where we're going except Emma and his father. We've also requested a permanent restraining order against Linda, including our new site. I know this may not be satisfying for everyone, but that's life. I doubt I'll update again, so this is all. We are grateful to everyone who has followed our story, sent us positive thoughts, and encouraged us. You kept us going when we wanted to quit. Do we still talk to Mike's father and Emma? Many people have asked. We are. Nobody knows where we're going but them. Our guests will visit once we're situated. Mike's father is considering retiring to our new city after his divorce. Emma will help us move and settle. Their help is much appreciated.